A major disagreement is emerging between United States President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over a potential Iran deal. So what exactly happened? According to the recent reports, Donald Trump is pushing for a diplomatic agreement that could reduce tensions with Iran and avoid a larger regional conflict. So he's trying to really go hard on the Israeli side. And Netanyahu, however, remains deeply concerned that any agreement could leave Iran with capabilities that Israel considers is super dangerous. And that is surprising part is, it's not a disagreement itself. The surprising part is Trump's response. For the first time in years, Donald Trump is publicly signaling that the United States, not Israel, will determine America's policy towards Iran. So basically, in simple terms, Netanyahu wants maximum pressure and Trump wants a deal, like a clean deal. And both leaders are now trying to shape the future of the Middle East from very different positions. So, well, it's going and folding in a very different matter. But on the other hand, why does it matter so much? Most people think this story is all about Iran, but it isn't about Iran. This story is actually about power. For decades, every Israeli prime minister understood one basic reality. Israel's security ultimately depends on strong support from Washington. They understood this very clear. That means when an American president speaks firmly, Israel must listen carefully. So today, Netanyahu finds himself trapped between two political realities. So reality number one, his political base expects him to remain tough on Iran. And reality number two, Donald Trump is currently the most important foreign leader in Israel's strategic calculation. Now, if the Israeli prime minister openly fights Trump's, he risks damaging a critical relationship between Israel and US. If he accepts a deal he dislikes, he risks criticisms from supporters at home in Israel. So this is why Analytical describes Netanyahu's position as a political dilemma. So the bigger significance is this. Trump is demonstrating that even close allies have limits. Red line. He is effectively saying very clear, we support Israel, but American foreign policy will be decided by America alone itself. This is a clear message. Every country in the Middle East is watching this very carefully. Iran is watching this very closely. Saudi Arabia is paying attention on this. And Russia and China, they are noticing every single move because it tells them who currently holds leverage in these negotiations between Iran and United States and Israel. So what happens next from now? There are three possibility scenarios. Scenario number one, Netanyahu accepts the deal. This is the least dramatic option. Netanyahu publicly raises concerns but ultimately works with Washington. In this scenario, Donald Trump gets a diplomatic victory and presents himself as the leader who prevented another Middle East conflict. Netanyahu would likely claim he secured additional security guarantees for Israel. Both leaders save face. On the other hand, scenario number two, Netanyahu pushes back hard. This is the most politically risky option for him. Netanyahu could publicly oppose the agreement and increase pressure more through diplomatic channels, lobbying efforts, and public speeches. That can be dangerous. But there is a problem right here. If Trump remains firm, Netanyahu may discover that his room to maneuver is smaller in previous years. So this could create visible tensions between Washington and Israel. So not a break in relationship, but certainly a difficult period, like a hard line. Now, scenario number three, events overtake diplomacy. This is the wild card scenario, like a military incident, missile strike, proxy attacks, or unexpected escalation could completely change the negotiations environment. So history also shows this, that Middle East diplomacy can change overnight totally on the other side. One expected event could make the entire discussion about the negotiations irrelevant totally. So this is the scenario investors, governments, military planners fears the most because it creates the highest uncertainty on a very bad side. And my probability assessment is on probably looking at a current situation on a very different scale. 55% probability Netanyahu ultimately accepts a version of a deal while publicly criticizing parts of it. But why? There is a reason behind this. Because maintaining the relationship with United States is strategically more important than winning a political argument, because that is very important for Israel. Now, 25% probability negotiations continue for months with neither side fully agreeing. This creates political tension but avoids a major confrontation. And 20% probability, what I see this in a different scene, a regional event disrupts diplomacy and changes the entire situation. And this remains the biggest risk factor because Middle East politics rarely moves in a very straight line. Now, most people watching this story are focused on the Iran deal. I think they're looking at the wrong thing. The real story is whether Donald Trump is redefining the balance of influence between Washington and Israel. That depends a lot. For years, the assumption was that Donald Trump and Netanyahu always moved in the same direction, towards the same goal. But today, we are seeing the evidence that their interests are beginning to diverge in a different way. So when two powerful allies want different outcomes, someone eventually has to compromise. They have to give up. So the question is now very simple. Will the Israeli Prime Minister bend towards Donald Trump's strategy, or Trump force a confrontation to prove that America's foreign policy is still decided in Washington? So that answer could shape the next chapter of the Middle East politics totally. But this story is unfolding in a very different way. So let